Hi, I'm Marnie Clark, and in this video, I'm going to share with you what I know about Chemo Brain. And I'm especially going to share my best tips on what things from the natural world will help the most with Chemo Brain. I'm a breast cancer coach, and I can tell you that there's no longer any shred of doubt that Chemo Brain, also known as post-chemotherapy cognitive impairment, is a real and quantifiable medical condition. So to answer that question, how long does Chemo Brain last? I can tell you that for most patients, Chemo Brain improves within 9 to 12 months after completion of chemotherapy. I know it sounds like a long time, right? Many people, however, still have residual symptoms at the 6-month mark, and women taking estrogen inhibiting drugs also suffer. So, are you finding that since starting chemotherapy, you have problems remembering things, put your phone down and can't figure out what you did with it, lost your eyeglasses, forgot the name of your favorite uncle? If so, you are so not alone. Leave me a comment below and tell me how Chemo Brain is affecting you. Here's the thing though, you absolutely do not have to suffer with this. There are a number of good things you can do for yourself, and very easily done, and I'll share what those things are in a minute. Extensive studies over the past decade have identified how chemotherapy targets brain structure and function as an unwanted side effect of cancer therapies. When I was going through chemotherapy back in 2004, all of the people in my cancer support group who were undergoing chemo were complaining about Chemo Brain. And it was clear that they were forgetful, vague, preoccupied, and befuddled. So I didn't even realize that Chemo Brain was a thing until then. I hadn't heard of it, and outside of a few times when I felt a bit tired from the chemo, I really didn't suffer from Chemo Brain too much. And I'll share why I think that was in a minute. So being a breast cancer coach, I hear regularly from my clients that their brain just is not working the same as it was before treatments began. I've said it before, chemotherapy is hell on your nervous system, and that includes your brain. I'll share with you my best tips in a minute, but first I think it's important that you know a few facts about Chemo Brain. Chemo Brain is the result of real pathologic changes in the brain. Brain imaging studies clearly demonstrate that anti-cancer drug therapies cause both acute and chronic changes in brain structure and function. Cell studies have indicated that Chemo Brain is likely due to neurotoxicity of critical cells within the brain, brought on by most chemo drugs. Chemotherapy drugs have been shown to significantly increase the produce of inflammatory proteins called cytokines, which can cause detrimental effects across the entire body. Other studies have found that chemotherapy causes glucose metabolism changes within brain tissues, and that causes impairment in how brain cells function. And it isn't just the chemo drugs. Anti-estrogen therapies like tamoxifen, Femra, Arimidex, Aromasin, Evista also can have a huge effect on the brain. Because the brain and estrogen have such a strong relationship, when you take the estrogen away, the brain suffers. Estrogen is needed for cognitive function because it exerts important effects on brain regions such as the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. One study found that women's cognitive function did not return to pre-treatment levels regardless of the treatment they were receiving. Those who received chemotherapy were affected, as well as those who had only the hormone therapy. But I don't want you to worry about that too much, because I'm going to teach you in a minute what to do to help yourself. There are other factors at play too with Chemo Brain. One study discovered that nearly a quarter of the cancer patients they studied had evidence of cognitive impairment before they even started chemotherapy. And the hypothesis was that increased levels of inflammatory proteins, which we know now are commonly associated with cancer, might be causing this brain fog, independent of the chemotherapy. Isn't that interesting? Another study found that many of the effects associated with Chemo Brain could in fact be due to stress and anxiety that is rampant in newly diagnosed cancer patients. And that's really no surprise, is it? Signs of Chemo Brain can include trouble remembering things, difficulty concentrating and paying attention, lapses in short-term memory and being forgetful, inability to find the right word for something, and problems with planning ahead and organizing things. So as I stated earlier, while I was undergoing chemo, I wasn't too affected by it, brain-wise. For me, it was much more manageable, and it manifested as a slightly sort of fogginess or vagueness. Like you just can't quite grasp that thing you really want to remember. You know it's in there somewhere. Finally, someone asked me why I seemed to be doing so much better than the others in the support group, and I confessed I really didn't know. And then it hit me several days later when I was in the bathroom applying my essential oils. I was doing better because I used essential oils daily for breast health. And I knew that nobody in my support group was doing that. So that's really important stuff. Why might essential oils make any difference? Because certain essential oils have the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier, which is a naturally occurring barrier in your brain created by certain blood vessels. So the blood-brain barrier exists to prevent possibly harmful substances from entering the brain tissues, which are very delicate. It's a defensive mechanism designed to protect your brain. So I need to share a little physiology now. The picture shows two nerve cells, and in order to communicate, they have to release chemicals called neurotransmitters, which pass from one nerve cell to another. This is known as a synapse, and this is how they pass information back and forth. So just to give you an idea, on average, the human brain contains about 100 billion neurons, and these neurons, nerve cells, can be connected to up to 10,000 other neurons, passing signals to each other via as many as 1,000 trillion synapses. So chemotherapy is toxic to the body and the brain, and while we know that most chemo drugs do not cross over the blood-brain barrier, they can induce changes, particularly in the development of new nerve cells and synaptic plasticity, both of which are closely linked to the hippocampus, which has a major role in learning and memory. Now then, back to essential oils. Studies in animals have shown that certain essential oils are neuroprotective, especially those containing sesquiterpenes, which are constituents of essential oils that can cross over the blood-brain barrier. We have multiple scientific articles which suggest that essential oils have the ability to improve memory and learning. The methods by which this happens are not clearly understood, but one of my essential oil mentors once told me that essential oils clean off the gunk that can accumulate at that junction between neurons. Remember the photo? That point at which the neurotransmitters pass from one nerve cell to another and pass on the message. So I have never forgotten that nugget of wisdom, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I've used essential oils as my first aid kit for over 20 years now, and here are my favorite essential oils for battling the effects of Chemo Brain. My best ones are frankincense, sandalwood, cedarwood, palo santo, copaiba, ocotea, and lavender. So all you need to do is breathe them in. Put a drop or two in your hand. Take a big deep breath. Like you're dragging those oils up into your brain, and you will be, via your lungs and then your bloodstream. Or you can just use a diffuser and diffuse them into the room where you're sitting or working. Oh, so good. Don't stop with just essential oils though. There are at least 10 other things that you can do that will help you alleviate Chemo Brain. Number 1, brain training. Brain games, learning something new. These are all about neuroplasticity, which helps your brain. Check out Brain Education TV channel on YouTube, and there are plenty of neuroplasticity websites like lumosity.com. That's lumosity.com. That will give you some great ideas on what to do to keep your mind active and engaged. Number 2, stress relief. Since stress has been shown to be a factor in cognitive impairment and indeed in the development of cancer, meditation and mindfulness are exceedingly helpful, and I always recommend these to my clients. Super important. Number 3, adequate sleep. Sleep can be adversely affected during cancer treatments, especially chemotherapy. It really messes with your brain. And we know that chronic sleep deprivation can also damage brain cells and prevent brain regeneration over time. Poor sleep also impairs the mechanism that eliminates toxic waste in the brain, a process that primarily happens when you sleep. So obviously getting adequate sleep, even if you have to take naps during the day, is really, really important for easing chemo brain. Google good sleep hygiene to find a list of things that should be avoided prior to sleep if you're having trouble sleeping. Number 4, excellent hydration. I can't stress this enough. You want to be washing those toxins out of your body and your brain. Even if water tastes weird to you, which it can do when you're going through chemo, add something like a sprig of peppermint or a slice of fresh ginger or lemon to your water. You'll be getting all kinds of good antioxidants at the same time and help you to make sure you're properly hydrated. Number 5, exercise. Not only is this good for keeping cancer recurrences away, exercise has also been found in studies to lessen the impact of chemo brain and improves cognitive function. Exercise is one of the strongest drivers of brain repair because it stimulates the growth of new neurons, facilitates connections between brain cells, and enhances overall cognitive resilience. Exercise also reduces levels of inflammatory cytokines. So if you are fatigued from your treatments, this can be a little hard to get started with, but just start with a nice, gentle midday walk and move on from there. Number 6, you want to be on an anti-inflammatory diet. Since chemo brain has been associated with inflammation, it only makes good sense to adopt an anti-inflammatory diet. You want to be focusing on lots of organic fruit, especially berries, vegetables, root vegetables, nuts, avocados, olive oil, freshly ground flaxseed and flaxseed oil, walnut oil, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, and loads of organic greens, all things that are high in antioxidants and cancer-fighting phytochemicals. Number 7, supplements. You want to focus on the supplements that provide you with extra antioxidants and anti-inflammatory nutrients, including curcumin, ginger, vitamin E, selenium, flaxseed oil, and resveratrol to protect your nerves during chemotherapy. Number 8, reduce the toxic load coming into your body. I have entire articles about this on my website, but the obvious ones are to stop smoking and drinking. Your body has enough toxins to deal with, so please don't add any more into the mix. Reduce the xenoestrogens you are coming into contact with. Wear protective gloves when you pump fuel into your car. Don't wear man-made perfumes. Obviously, essential oils are okay, but no man-made perfumes. All of these will help you to reduce your toxic load. Number 9, energy therapies. In traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, it is believed that a good flow of energy in the body, known as qi or prana, promotes wellness and health. Blocks in that flow of energy can show up as illness and dis-ease. I believe that the following therapies can be extraordinarily helpful to optimize the flow and balance of the body's energy during cancer therapies and help to ease the symptoms of chemo brain, including yoga, tai chi, acupuncture, qigong, and massage therapy. And last but not least, I'm going to mention the biofrequency device. We are all comprised of energy. The universe is made of energy, and everything has a frequency. And some very smart scientists have discovered how to read the frequencies of our body and discover what is out of balance using a quantum sensor. And this can help with chemo brain too, I believe. This is cutting edge technology. This device, the one that I use, has the ability to detect in your energy field where you might be out of balance. For instance, your thyroid or your immune system, or whatever, or mental balance that you might need help with. And then you can send yourself the personalized frequencies to help resolve that issue, whatever it is. I mention this here because some of my clients are getting some assistance with Chemo Brain when they use their unit. So drop me a message if you want to know more about that. So I hope you have found these tips and information on Chemo Brain to be helpful. If you aren't getting my free newsletters, you can register for them by clicking more information below the video. I'm honored to walk alongside you and help you in your breast cancer journey. Thanks for watching.